Troy Sage.
I'm Andrew Smith, and we're going to talk a little bit about when is a short sale actually over?
When is it done?
Done. When's that fat lady? God, I won't do that again.
That's awesome.
Sorry about that. But when is it done? You know, there's so many different...
When it's done.
When it's done.
Yeah.
But when is it done? I mean, I had an agent I was talking to just a couple of weeks ago, and they said, you know, we've been working this file. We thought everything was...
You're a goofball. I can't get past this singing. Sorry, you had a file or a fat lady or something.
Leave fat ladies out of this.
Okay.
All right, so I was talking to somebody.
Okay, who are you talking to?
I don't know.
All I can do is visualize you singing. Anyways, so you're talking to someone about the file.
They had everything go through.
There we
Everything
go.
looked as though it was going to be great, and the terms of the approval were not quite what they expected. It was not what they thought they were going to get. So they said, well, the bank have approved it, but we can't close this. So, you know, it's not acceptable. We're done. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you were done? Why didn't you go back and negotiate? Well, you can't negotiate after the approval letter's been issued, can you?
You absolutely can. A lot of times, I mean, you know, human error does rear its ugly head sometimes in this business, and so does weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
So there are plenty of times that you'll get an approval letter that may have some extra verbiage in it, or more so it's using numbers that are off,
Mm-hmm.
or there might be a promissory note that they're asking for that was not agreed upon in the negotiation. So it's pretty simple. And I'm going to make it sound simple, but it's time consuming. You have to contact the negotiator again and let them know that this has been a misprint or there's something wrong here, and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and pull out your conversation log and say, look, according to what we said on such and such day, this is what you told me. I've even seen them when they're coming through Equator that they're slightly different.
It does happen. I
Yeah.
mean, and you see it a lot too if the approval terms of the first lender don't match the approval terms of the second.
Yeah, that's
or
where it
vice
gets really
versa.
crazy.
And you've got to start working on that. But so you can always go back and negotiate and try and hammer out those terms. You don't just have to accept it. Just because the bank comes back and says, we're approving under these terms, that doesn't mean that's all they're going to do.
Right, and remember, I think a lot of agents forget this, and this is one of the things that I tell homeowners all the time, is that when they're working with me, is that I'm simply I'm like Michael Jordan's agent, and they're Michael Jordan. I can negotiate all day long, but until they actually sign that agreement, they sign that short sale approval letter, they don't have to do anything.
Right.
You could be in the 11th hour, and if something weird happens, that seller can walk away.
Exactly. And you know, the other thing is too, is it's remembering as you go all the way through, depending on how your state works. I mean, obviously we deal with escrow here, but depending on how that works, just because it goes all the way along and, you know, the terms of the approval are acceptable, the buyer's loan funds, you get confirmation of recording or closing, that file, as far as the bank is concerned, is not yet done, is it?
No, it's not done until the actual bank signs off on the final HUD. They have confirmation that they've received their funds. All right, and that's really important. Another thing that's real important, I know it's different from state to state and county to county, but I know here in Riverside County, normally, what we've done for so long is we would fund one day and then actually record the deed the next day.
Right.
Okay, now it's not so much anymore. That's changed quite a
Right.
bit. But still, a lot of escrow companies they're not in the on that wheel to get it done the same day. So we're not done until it actually records. So that means a couple of things. Number one, as an agent, you have to stay on top of the file. And number two, as the seller, you need to stay in town.
Exactly, because just like what you said, what will actually happen if you look at your approval letters, the approval letter is dependent upon the deal closing by a set date.
Correct.
And the bank receiving certified funds by a date that's usually 1 or 2 days later.
Right.
So you've got to make sure, just because you get confirmation that it has closed, that all of those funds do get wired out to the bank and that deal gets closed out. That is even more important if you have a situation where you have a trustee sale date or a foreclosure date that is very close to when you're actually closing your short sale transaction. I know there's many title companies that we've dealt with that if you've got a closing date that's within 3 days of your sale date, they won't do it.
That's right.
Because if they can't get everything done and those certified funds and they don't get word, even if it's technically closed Buyer's loan's funded, it's recorded. If they don't get word back to that trustee, the bank can still foreclose on that property.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And remember, these are big 800-pound gorillas, these banks, for the most part. They have so many different departments, so many different people that are involved in the banking process that 9 times out of 10 that I've seen, or maybe 7 out of 10, the loss mitigation department is not talking to the trustee, who's a totally separate entity here in Southern California. So the trustee goes ahead and forecloses. Meanwhile, the loss mitigation and their closing department thinks that everything's all ready to go,
Right.
and we got a whole mess at that point in time.
Exactly. I mean, bottom line of all of that is the terms that you get in an approval are not cast in stone. You can still negotiate. You need to double check that approval letter to make sure it is all of those terms are agreeable to the seller and you're not going to cause them some problems down the road. Number 2, you've got to follow that transaction all the way through, not just a confirmation of it's being done recorded,
Right.
but it's finished with the short sale lender as well. And it's really important. If you're going to do your seller justice, you've got to stay on top of those things all the way through, past the traditional closing date.
Yeah, key thing that we're finding is that the last 72 hours of any transaction is like closing up open heart surgery.
Right.
You've got to make sure everyone is on the same page, everyone is reachable. You know, and I don't care if the seller has moved out of state, they've got to be reachable. There could be a document they have to sign, so on and so forth. But I mean, I can talk about this for hours.
Don't leave a scalpel in the chest.
Yeah,
in other words.
don't do that. So until the bald-headed man sings.
Well, I can't do that again.
Yeah,
I already heard my voice.
Oh yeah. There we go. Then the deal's not done. So stay with the deal from beginning to end, and don't hand out keys until you're absolutely 100% sure that it's done.
Absolutely. And again, please feel free to find us on the web, s2neg.com.
I thought we had a new website.
We do have a new website.
AndrewSingsOpera.com.
I wouldn't go there. It's got a bad rating.
Anyway,
We'll see you next time.
thanks for watching.